Hello, this is Justin Bush with Fit for Life, moving fit for permanent fat loss. This is the follow-up video to our previous video where we talked about the hormones that specifically break up our stored fat and make our fat energy available to be burned. Okay, so if you didn't see that, make sure you check that out. We're going to talk about, I've called it the energy cycle, but this is actually the Krebs cycle. That's what this is. So if you decide to look it up, Google it. Krebs cycle, also known as the TCA cycle, so that is the tricarboxylic acid cycle. So if you want to say it 10 times, you can. I will not. There's one point that I want to cover in this video. One point and one point only. So here's energy, right? So every time your doctor says I need you to move more, every time your trainer, including myself, says I need you to move more, that's because when you move more, you expend more energy. When you expend more energy, this spins around, right? So this is spinning, and as this is spinning, you can pull from your protein, you can pull from your sugar, you can pull from your fat. And more than likely, we're saying this to you because we want you to pull from your fat, okay? Now, what's important to understand is you can absolutely break down your muscle through physical activity. Some activity more so than others will encourage your body to break down muscle, and that's not necessarily what we want to do. So there are two things that can happen. One, protein can be broken down and it can be converted into energy. And then the second one for protein that we care about, there's one more we don't care so much about, we'll talk about it later in the video, is that protein can be broken down and used to replenish our sugar. Right? So if you remember from our carbohydrates video, it's very important that our body maintains a specific blood sugar level. So if our blood sugar is low, it's within my physiology, your physiology, everybody's physiology to be able to take muscle and burn the sugar so that we can get our blood sugar levels back to where it wants to be, if that is the situation we're in. So that's protein. Sugar. Just like protein, so we eat sugar. Sugar has the potential to be burned as energy. Some activity, your high intensity activity will encourage this process. Sugar can also be stored in the liver as glycogen. So sugar is essentially glucose. Glucose can be stored as glycogen. So those are the two there. Fat, where it gets a little more interesting. So remember, our free fatty acids are available to be burned as energy. They're readily available. So let me say it again, readily available. Stored fat is not. In order for stored fat to release free fat, we have to stimulate our stored fat cells to break apart the glycerol backbone from the free fat. And what happens? Just like in the previous video, so make sure you watch that again already. The glycerol is going to go here because glycerol can be converted essentially into sugar. There's other processes that happen prior to that, but let's just stay focused. So it can go here. So from here, right, this can go in this direction. It can go towards liver. If it's a matter of, hey, I need to have some more sugar stored, it can be eventually converted into energy if that's necessary. But this is only 5%. So it's important because we need to break this apart in order to access our free fat. But what's also important to understand is that it's not the majority of the energy. The majority of the energy, what comes here? So we have our free fat from the food that we eat. We eat food, there's fat in it, it can be used as energy, again, for the most part, to keep us warm. When we break this apart, the three long chains of free fatty acids then come down and enter this cycle as well, and it can be converted into energy, and then we can burn it, right? So there's two main takeaways from this video. Number one, you're always burning energy. You're never not burning energy, right? So it's, you go work out, look at your heart rate monitor watch. I burn 1,000 calories. If you want to get fancy, you would actually calculate what your resting metabolic rate is. So if you normally burn, let's say 100 calories per hour, just for easy math, you do a workout and you burn 200 calories, then what did you do? You burned 100 additional calories to your normal resting metabolic rate, or probably more accurately, your basal metabolic rate, so whatever you typically burn in the course of a day. Okay? So that applies to the energy piece, right? And so as we increase our energy, we can pull from protein, sugar, and fat. Point one. Point two. Excess of any three can go towards stored fat. So if we have an excess of protein, it can enter this cycle. Let me use a different color. It can enter our energy cycle. So green is going to illustrate the fact protein can go into our circle and be pushed into stored fat. Sugar can go into our cycle and be pushed into stored fat. Fat, as you can imagine, can be pushed into our cycle and be stored, that's an ugly board, into stored fat. All three of these can be turned into our Krebs cycle, and our Krebs cycle can shoot it right back into our stored fat cells. Now, the mistake that we often make is thinking, and it makes sense because it's logical. We say, okay, so if I'm overweight or if I'm not losing enough weight in the rate that I need to, it must be an energy problem, right? Because fat is energy. So if I have too much energy, it's because I'm consuming too much energy. So then therefore, right, the logical assumption I made of myself is I need to burn more energy, or I need to decrease, let's imagine there's a mouth up here somewhere, the amount of energy that I'm taking in. That's simply not the case. Rarely is anyone ever overweight, you or anyone else, because it's just a matter of I'm just eating too much. And there's research behind this, which we're going to talk about probably in the follow-up video. Typically what's happening is there is a hormonal imbalance. And I'm just going to blast that across the screen because I've lost space on my board. What controls everything that you see is hormones. That's what controls everything. So the process I just described, with protein and sugar and fat, can be set here, and instead of be burned as energy and get shoved into stored fat, is insulin. I'll put insulin real big right there. You see it? You see it? Is it there? Okay. Insulin, in the presence of insulin, this is where this is going to go. Okay? So insulin is most prevalent when in a fed state, right? So you eat something, there's an insulin response to it, it gets pushed around, and anything that's not burned, right? Because it could be burned, it's not that this is an option. It can absolutely be burned, but in the presence of insulin, it's going to more than likely get pushed here. Okay? So let's stop there. We're going to talk more about insulin in the next video. Hope to see you soon.